Let me send. Admit some more people.
Hey, see, I'll take the waiting room.
Okay. I was trying to help a few people who emailed me saying they were having problems getting in. We will
Okay, I have
keep
one
going.
as well, but they're messaging me their information.
And we can send the ID and the password through too to help. Good evening, everyone. Can't see everyone at one time. We have about 200 that registered with us. So this is exciting.
Where are we?
Okay. Welcome. We to Residential Life. So if you are on here, we take it that you have a freshman that's living on campus with us this fall, and we really wanted to take an opportunity to kind of meet you, and so you could put some faces with some names and help answer some of the questions that you might have in the midst of us working remotely from home as much as possible in response to the coronavirus, and trying to be accessible to you as well in answering questions. So we wanted to take a few moments just to meet you and answer some of those. And I know a good bit of you have already sent me questions by email, so we're going to start with those in a minute. But I'm going to ask that the administrators introduce themselves so you'll know who we are. I'm Casey Ingram, and I'm the Director of Residential Life. I have been at Tech professionally almost 15 years this fall, and I attended Tech, got a bachelor's in family and child studies and my master's in industrial organizational psychology. And I started working for Residential Life as a sophomore, as a resident assistant living on campus, and I went potluck my first year and had a great roommate experience. I know that's not always the case, but that's what we're here for, to help your students learn through the difficult experiences as well. And so I worked as an RA and as a hall director within Residential Life, and then started full-time in 2005 as a coordinator of student development. And I worked for about 7.5 years. Mr. Speed, who you'll meet in a minute, hired me. And I worked as a coordinator for 7.5 years, then moved to our vice president's office, worked with him as an administrative assistant for 1.5 years, and then moved back to Residential Life. I missed it so much. And I've been the director for 6 years now. So I enjoy the on-campus experience and helping our students transition from high school to college, and really helping them embrace the experience as best as possible. And that's my favorite part, getting to know the students. So I'm going to ask, I guess, Miss Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Emily Spoon. I'm the assistant director. I've been the assistant director for 6 years now, and I've actually worked in Residential Life as a student worker and now professionally for about 18 years. So I started out in room assignments as a student, and then I worked as a coordinator, as Miss Casey did, and now I'm the assistant director, and I work specifically in room assignments, handling all the assignments on campus. So I enjoy getting to meet the students as well, and helping them find that perfect room or that perfect roommate for them, whether that is potluck or whether it's someone that they know from their high school. So it's good to meet everyone.
Mr. Speed, I have about 40 that are trying to be approved right now, so I'm working on that. You want to introduce yourself? You're gonna have to unmute yourself, Mr. Speed.
Sorry about that. Okay. I have them in. I have the ones who were waiting in. I'm Samuel Speed. I am the Dean of Student Engagement and Undergraduate Recruitment. I have worked at Louisiana Tech for 28 years. I'm in my 29th year. I've served in varying roles, I think, for all but 3 of the years I've worked with residential life in some capacity. I came up both in recreation and residential life as a coordinator, director of IT for student affairs. Then I moved to the director of residential life. I've been the director of student conduct, and then moved to assistant dean and now dean. I'm probably a little bit cynical in that I probably enjoy working with students who don't have the perfect roommate experience just as much as I do those who have the perfect roommate experience, because it's teaching valuable lessons. So pleasure to be with you guys.
All right, Miss Lindsay, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Lindsay Cavan. I'm a coordinator of student development. I supervise Adams and Aswell Hall in our freshman apartment complex, Legacy Park, as well as University Park. I have been a coordinator for this is going into my 5th academic year. I graduated from Tech in 2010 with a degree in family and child studies, and came back to the university in 2015. Me and my husband both work in student affairs, and we actually live in the Aswell Suites with our 4 kids. So we have lived in the dorms for the past 4 years. Raising kids in a dorm is quite fun, but just shows that we really believe in the on-campus experience and helping your children acclimate to their new home. So excited for y'all to come in the fall, and I'm excited to be a part.
Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. Like I said, we've already been emailed some questions, and so we're gonna take those one by one, and then we'll do our best to answer some questions that maybe you have that weren't addressed in these initial questions. So Miss Emily, you wanna get us started?
Sure. The first question we had was, can you change dorms and or roommates after the first quarter? Yes, you can. We pretty much have an open room change policy throughout the school year. We do have room changes that are closed for the first 2 weeks of every quarter, just so we can do our occupancy checks and make sure everybody's living where they're supposed to be and that they're on campus and things like that. But after that, we do open it up, and we ask that, you know, if you'd like to talk about a roommate conflict with your coordinator, Miss Lindsay, or Mr. Bornell, who's not on with us tonight, we ask that you do that. Or you can just come to our office and have your students come to our office and request a room change, and we can help facilitate that. Whether it's a different roommate or if it's a different building or anything like that, we can help them with that.
All right. Another question, have updates been made to Graham to correct ongoing AC issues and basic maintenance, including repairing floors, missing towel bars, etc.? So for those of you who maybe have had previous experience with Graham, I lived in Graham for 2 years as a student, and it was my favorite building to live in. It was, of course, female back then. But it is one of our older buildings on campus, and it has struggled a little bit with AC in these last few years. We are currently replacing the chiller in Graham. So those guys will get to experience a new AC unit come fall quarter. And so Graham is offline for the summer. We just awarded a bid for that process. Actually, today I signed off on that. So we hope that those ongoing AC issues will be no more come fall quarter. As far as basic maintenance, and this is in regards to any building that you live in on campus, if there is an issue with your room upon move-in, we do try to go through that during the summer and conduct regular maintenance. We have 7 maintenance guys that work on our staff, and of course, with all the buildings we have on campus, it is pretty thin for us to get around. But if you move in and there is an issue in your room, please let your staff know, your RA staff. We can write work orders all throughout the year, and we respond to those as quickly as we can, with those of high priority being the ones that are the biggest issues, of course, and can cause the biggest concerns for students. So definitely reach out to us. Sometimes in dealing with students, we might get to winter quarter and they're like, well, this never got fixed in my room. But they never turned it in or mentioned it to us, and assumed that we were coming through and checking those on a regular basis. So please, please have your student be very vocal about those things. We do care about it, and we are very responsive. And Mr. Jonigan is our manager of building services, And he has a daughter that just graduated college this year. And so he's very passionate about making sure that our students are taken care of. He's been in residential life for over 30 years and very passionate about that experience. So please just stay in touch with us and have your students come by and see us. That's important to us that we maintain that communication with them. Mr. Speed, you're up next.
Next question is, what recommendations can you offer for incoming freshmen? Basically, any information that can help. The best information I think I can give, or recommendation I can give for freshmen, is to be flexible. I like to tell incoming freshmen, this is not the 13th grade. College is different than high school. You can take a lot of what you learn, but you're going to have to learn new things. So they need to be flexible with themselves. They need to understand that there is assistance out there. There are people who care, people who want to help. But they really need to recognize that college is not high school. It's going to be a little bit different. They're going to have to dig a little bit more to find things. They're going to have to find out which people to go to for assistance, whether that be academically or for any type of support. And they just cannot hesitate to reach out when they reach that tough spot. We always welcome and appreciate their conversations back home with parents, but this is their opportunity to learn to navigate on their own. So we appreciate the opportunities to work with them and help them through this process.
Thank you. So the next question, and I'm sure many of you have those questions, is can you explain the move-in process? If you had asked me about 2 months ago, I could explain it very well. But in looking at what our move-in process is going to look like for the fall, we still have a lot of questions about that. And I don't think that we're alone in that. I am in contact with a lot of directors of housing at other universities across the state, and we're all trying our best to manage how to do this in a very safe way for our parents, our students, and our students that assist and work that move-in. And so in talking to my hall director student staff this morning, some of their concerns about move-in and their interactions with students, how do we keep them safe as well? And so as a university and as a department, we are currently trying to get those details together. And I don't have all of that right now. It is going to be forthcoming. You guys know through this, it's just kind of a one day at a time, and things change so quickly. And, I don't have a crystal ball to know what the state or even Lincoln Parish is going to look like come fall quarter. But know that our top priority is the health and safety of our parents, students, and those that are working for us. And so just trying to do that in a manner that can make sure that those priorities are taken care of. And we do plan on beginning the move-in process on September the 4th, which is a Friday. Initially, that was going to be the day that we did our freshman community retreat. And we have since decided to cancel and not offer the retreat this year because we know that we're going to have to spread out our move-in days. And in order to do that, we were going to need to take those days that we normally hold the retreat and use those as move-in days. And so what we're currently thinking is that you would be assigned a date and a time to move in. Our thoughts are to limit the number of people moving in per building, per time slot, and trying to limit that interaction as much as possible to maintain social distancing requirements. And what that's going to look like for fall, we don't yet know as we move through these phases. But right now, that's kind of what we're playing with, is how best to offer appointments for check-in, whether it will be assigned or whether it'll be something that you get to select, and how we go about doing that. And so we're looking at best case scenarios. We have some contacts throughout the nation at other universities and trying to see what they're doing, how they're handling it. It's a whole new world regardless of what area you work in or where you're at. So we just ask for your patience and know that we'll get that out as soon as possible. My goal is to have a plan in place in the next couple of weeks and be able to start communicating that, because I'm a planner and I know you guys are wanting to plan your move-in as well and what those days look like. So we will be in touch as soon as we know and as soon as we have those plans in place to let you know as well. Miss Emily?
Okay. The next question is how to find a compatible roommate if applying now. We do not know anyone else attending Louisiana Tech. StarRes, the housing portal that you apply to Tech with or to live on campus, is a great tool because once you fill out your survey questions, or your student fills out those survey questions, then it matches you based on a percentage that that you're compatible with of other students. So I highly recommend that your students do that if they don't have an assignment yet, or if they're just applying and need an assignment, need a roommate, to make sure they fill out that housing survey as best they can. It's best if the student fills it out, because a lot of times us parents will say, yes, they will go to bed early and they will wake up early and attend all their classes. And sometimes that's not as realistic, especially, when the students go to college, they may want to stay up a little later. So the roommates need to be compatible with them and match their survey questions, okay, and their answers. So just have your students fill that out. And they can also search for if they're interested in a particular intramural sport, or if they're interested in a particular organization, they can search using that code word, and StarRes will pull up anybody else who has listed that in their description. So it's very easy to search for someone. If you have any questions about a roommate or anything like that, we're always there to help to look for that. But like I said, those survey questions are going to be the best thing to go by. And StarRes has 3 different options for you to search for compatible roommates for. So that's an easy avenue right there.
If I could chime in 1 second, like I said, I've had over 25 years experience as a coordinator and also as the director, but I now work with Residential Life along with 6 other departments. But one thing you have to realize is a lot of times compatibility, or what we may think is compatibility, doesn't end up being that. So through the years, I've probably seen just as many people who come thinking they want to be roommates with someone because they were high school friends with them and it just doesn't work out. So going back to my recommendation for freshmen, again, flexible. They have to be flexible. They have to realize that just because they went to high school with someone, they were good friends with them, living with them is a whole nother step. And so they just need to learn how to navigate those experiences, and we're here to help them with that.
Thanks, Mr. Speed. In the suites, what size sheets are needed, and does the kitchen have cooking necessities already? So I'm going to answer that in general for each housing location, because you may be wondering if your student is living in the suites or the traditional halls or Legacy Park. Those are all twin size beds. If they're living in University Park or Park Place and they're on the first floor in our freshman buildings there, so they live in a hybrid apartment, which means there are 2 students per bedroom. Those are twin size beds as well, and we'll need twin size sheets. If they're living at University Park and Park Place and they're in a room where it's just them, then those are full size beds. So those are the main differences in the locations as far as beds and size sheets needed. For the suite specifically, does the kitchen have cooking necessities already? It does not. We debated on providing that a good bit, but our students, the last 2 years that we've had that open, have really enjoyed kind of bringing their own things. And it's really a unique community to walk into and to see. Sometimes we'll find dishes left in the sink where, they've just been cooking, but they use that so much. And Miss Lindsay, her family lives over in the suite. She can tell you she's probably stepped out to Aswell C and seen, but they do a lot of cooking there with one another, and they bring their own things. We don't provide it, but for the most part, a lot of them will leave it down there. We haven't had any problems with anything going missing. Those communities are so small. You're talking about 36 to 40 people, and they really get to know each other pretty well. And that's worked out pretty well in the past. So for that question, we do not provide cooking necessities. So I've got a few questions here in line. Will there be housing the second session of the summer? So we are housing students all summer on campus, not just second session, but if you're looking for just second session, yes, we are providing housing on campus for the summer. We have a small group, of course, because our first session classes are going to be online, but we do have a little over 100 students right now that are signed up to be here first session and live on campus with us. Do you need to purchase a loft kit to be able to loft the beds in the suites? And a question about the dimensions of the furniture there in the suites. So the beds that are provided in the suites are already loft beds. And for the most part, they're going to be loftable when you move in, or lofted when you move in. Students most of the time leave them lofted. They do put their desk and chest under that for the most part. And as far as the dimensions of the furniture, specifically for the suites, you can find that on our Facebook page. When we purchased that furniture, we posted all of those pictures on there, and it does have the dimensions on there. So something that we can look at adding to our website. And while we're working remotely from home, I'm the one that does the website. So if you can't find something, it's probably me. And y'all, I'm technologically challenged sometimes. So I will do my best to try to update some of that information so that you have that. But I do know for the suite specifically, and I did send a mom that earlier, it is on our Facebook page. You can just go to our photos and find it from when we purchased that furniture. The next question, I've got several here. So this one's Graham Hall specific, engineering and science community. It is male only. So this person is asking, is there a female hall residence that houses our female freshman students? We do not have a female freshman housing residence hall. We do offer a townhome in our Legacy Park apartments. Now, what's a townhome? It's a 4-bedroom apartment, 2 bath, and 2 students per bedroom. So it is eight girls living together, and that is our engineering and science townhome. And typically that's, we assign that with our engineering and science department. They notify us of those students that they want to place there. We have tried in the past to offer a floor in a hall for our engineering and science females, but what we have found with our females is that they'd rather live with a friend or a roommate they found through the portal and not so much with somebody that shares the same major as them. And so it just kind of floundered and there wasn't a whole lot of interest. But we do have that townhome, and I would encourage you, if you're interested in that, to reach out to engineering and science and let them know that you're interested. And another question, since Graham does have the project space and the presentation space, are females allowed in Graham during certain times? So our visitation in all of our traditional halls and our suites is from 10 a.m. in the morning until midnight. So yes, females can go into Graham, into that basement, and work in there as well. We just ask that they, have someone that they're there with as far as a Graham resident. I do know that engineering and science sometimes will have special sessions down there, and we work with them on that so that females can go into that space and use that space. We also have an academic RA that helps with that as well. So yes, we work with engineering and science as far as our females gaining access to that, but we do ask that it is during visitation hours. The last question for me for a minute, if my daughter chooses to have a TV, what is a reasonable size? Now, define reasonable, because if I were to ask my kids, they're like, the bigger the better. But this one's in the suites, doesn't want something too large. I'll be honest, I have found in the last year, 2 years, there's kind of a trend not to bring TVs now. I'm sure Miss Lindsay's nodding. Like, we go in rooms and we see students and what they bring, and a lot of them watch TV on their tablet or on their iPad or their phone. And so we don't have as many bringing in TVs. There are some still that do that. But as something that's too large, Miss Lindsay, what do you think would be too large for the suites?
Well, we have a 60+ inch in the lobby here, and I would say that that's pretty large.
That would be large for a bedroom.
Yeah, so I would say like a 32, maybe. I think that's fair.
I was going to say a 40 inch. I think if you go over 40 inches, it's going to consume a little bit too much of the room, even if it's not, I guess, in the way, it's still going to be a little bit too large. So I would say 40 inch or below.
And what I've seen in the suites specifically is they don't have closets in the suites. They have the wardrobes, the movable wardrobes. And so they'll set the TV up on top of the wardrobe so that they can see it from their loftable bed well. But that's a good question. All right, Miss Emily, you're up next.
Okay. This one says, we called the resident admin phone number a few times and couldn't get an answer. We never spoke to anyone. What's the best, most active contact method? And then using our students' kennel account, we were trying to register for housing for the fall, but we were being told by the system we had to contact resident admins. That is correct. Housing is not, you don't apply for housing through the kennel. It is updated in the kennel when you have a housing app on file, but you do have to go through our StarRez housing portal, and that you can get to through our website. There's an apply now button, and it will take you to the StarRez portal. Now, if you're having trouble logging on to the StarRez portal, it may be because you don't have your credentials. In order to apply for StarRez, you have to have your campus-wide ID number, and then StarRez will actually email you a password. Okay, it's a password that StarRez comes up with, and if you're not getting that password, it's probably because your tech email address is not input into the system, and we do have to just make sure that's entered correctly. We do get all students' information imported into StarRez, and sometimes those emails don't come over correctly, so we have to manually enter those. So if that's an issue that you're having or that your student's having, contact me. You can email me, and I'll look up that email, put it in StarRez real fast, and email you back and tell you that it's ready to go. Then you can go into StarRez, put your campus-wide ID, click retrieve forgot password, and that password will be sent to you, and then you can apply for housing from there. As far as the best, most active contact method, at this point, we are asking that you email the housing account. I'm also checking that daily, and I have students that come in the afternoons and help check that as well. But we're all taking a day during the week to kind of be on call. So the main phone line for Residential Life rings to our cell phone. So if we're getting more than one call at a time, we're not able to get that. So you can email the housing account and we'll get right back to you. Usually it's taken between 5 to 7 days, business days, to respond if we're kind of backed up. But we'll try to get to those as quickly as we possibly can. Again, you can still call, leave a message, and whoever's on call will return that back to you.
In light of that, let me step in real quick. I have had a few people are emailing me some questions, but it just kind of off of what you just said too. So a few are saying, you know, when will we get assigned into a room, or we've picked a roommate and we've selected each other on the portal. When will they be assigned together? Y'all, we don't assign anybody into a space. Okay, you do that yourself on the portal. So once at this point, everybody's able to go in and select right now. So if you've applied today, you'll be able to go in and select a room. And the system does not automatically assign you with the roommate, even if you approve a roommate, because I think you can approve up to 5 or 6 roommates as options, but it doesn't automatically assign you with that roommate. You would click the space that you're wanting to place yourself in, and then you would assign them with you. So if you're waiting for an assignment, go ahead and go into that portal and you do that part yourself on the room selection step. And if you need some guidelines, those are on the website, and feel free to call us to walk through that. So sorry, Mr. Spade, I jumped in on you.
Oh, no problem. The next question says, what is the status for housing and expected campus life in light of COVID? This is a question, honestly, that we're still trying to answer. We will continue to adjust with former health and well-being of our students, our staff, making sure that everyone's okay. One of the first things that we did, especially for those students who remained on campus for the quarter, was our housekeeping staff went through extensive training on making sure they knew how to disinfect, what to disinfect, wiping down surface areas that were frequently visited, wiping down crash bars, doorknobs, handles, anything that students could actually touch and actually spread any type of disease, not just the COVID-19. And that's one of the things that is a benefit, especially in the traditional residence halls, is because we have housekeeping staff that do come in basically 5 days a week during normal times. Right now, because of COVID, we're coming in every day and making sure that that staff is cleaning up. In light of campus life, we're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. For instance, some of our programming. I mean, we may have an artist in, or say, for instance, a hypnotist, and that's part of Union Board's campus activities. So right now, we're looking at what that is going to be, how we can do that. We have to operate according to the guidelines up the chain, whether that's Louisiana Tech, University of Louisiana system, the state of Louisiana, or federal guidelines. So we will try to do everything that we possibly can to make this as normal a freshman year for your freshmen that we can. But there is a reality to the fact that things have changed. It's changed for all of us. One thing I appreciate is working with so many committed people. The residential life staff that you're talking to now is absolutely wonderful. They will do whatever it takes to make sure that this transition into college is a smooth one. We don't promise every situation to be a perfect situation. What we promise is we'll be right there with the students, helping them get through it and helping them transition into college. But COVID just adds another layer. It adds another layer, and I could imagine it gave opportunities for all of you to talk about some of the things you've been through. You'd have some stories, and we have some stories as well. Online learning. I just had a mom tell me earlier today that their daughter is just not an online learner. If you knew how many times I've heard that since February, you'd just be shocked. The students they're learning to adjust. So we will adjust. We will adjust campus life the best we can and make sure it's still a good experience for your son or daughter. We want to make sure that they know that we are here to help and assist in anything we can in the transition.
Ready for my question? All right, student is looking to participate in FREP in July. FREP is our freshman engineering program on campus. It says, what is the status of FREP as this was supposed to be a 4 to 5 week program? And how do we register for housing for this? As far as we know, FREP is still going to take place on campus. Just like Ms. Casey said earlier, we are housing students for first and second session of the summer. And this would be during the second session as well. And you would register for housing for this just the same way you do for the academic year. There is a application on the housing portal. It's called Summer 6 Weeks, and you would select that. And then basically the engineering department would let me know which students are going to be coming for FREP, and we would get them assigned according to maybe if you had a roommate request for the summer for that FREP program, you know, or something like that. So that's how the registration for housing would go for that.
Thank you, Ms. Emily. This next question, I was wondering if we can see a room. Will we be able to tour their room at orientation? So great question. You know, that's probably what most of our parents look forward to when you come to orientation. When are we going to see a room? When are we going to see a room? Currently, we're not planning on offering tours at orientation. And the reason being, we do have students that live on campus, and we are restricting their visitation, so they are not allowed to bring visitors into the residential facilities that don't already live on campus to maintain that safe environment for them. And we don't feel like we need to enable tour groups to come through the quarters in which they're living and subject them to possible COVID as well. So when we're again looking at the safety of our students, and we're considering those that are living on campus with us during the summer, that's the kind of the decision that we made. Also, we do know you want to see the buildings. That we do have videos on the website that you can watch that show some of our rooms on campus. We are also working to provide a 360 virtual tour of each of our locations, and our hope is to have that done in the next few weeks, so that you can see that, and hopefully that will help a little bit with what you're anticipating when you move in, and what you see in that building. Again, we know that you want to see it, and we want to show it to you, but in trying to protect our students that are living here for the summer, and those students that work for us that would be giving those tours, and just trying to fit it into the orientation schedule. Right now, we're currently not planning to offer that. Now, a week or two down the lane, it might change depending on these phases, but currently that's the discussion that we're having with our orientation team as to what that looks like.
Please know that these decisions that are being made probably more on the side of being more cautious than maybe we need to. We just want to make sure that at the beginning we're doing whatever we can do to ensure the safety of our students and our staff. One of the things that I was adamant about, and Casey Ingram has been adamant about, is making sure that our housekeeping staff is adequately protected, and making sure they have the proper gear, being that they have to clean and make sure that these areas are sanitary. We can to make sure that things are as safe as possible, so that everyone feels good about the experience that they're going to have in the fall. So we will caution on the side of being going overboard, I guess is the best way of saying it. And hopefully for the fall, that'll yield some good results.
If y'all notice, I tried to mute everybody. I had a parent email me and ask that I mute you, so that I think some background noise from other people. So hopefully we can keep going on that. Miss Emily, I think you're next.
This question says, when my son had to choose a room, as well, I'm assuming suites was full, and he had to choose a room in Mitchell. He was told he'd be placed on a waiting list for Aswell Suites. However, stay-at-home orders were issued, and we have been unable to discuss with anyone to get directions. He does have a roommate that wishes to move to Aswell Suites with him. Like I mentioned earlier, you can contact us by phone or by email. We are asking that any room changes at this point be emailed directly to our housing account, which is housing@latech.edu. And we're answering those as fast as we can. And I know some, if you don't hear back the next day, you email again and email again. We are trying to keep up with that email account as quickly as we can, like I said. And we're keeping record of those that have emailed and that have asked for certain locations. So if you did get in a location that you're not happy with, or with a roommate that you're not pleased with, email the housing account, and we'll do our best to try to get you changed. Once we do, I usually send an email through the student's tech email address to let them know that they've been changed. They can log back onto the portal to see their new assignment, to see their new roommate or roommates. And if we don't have anything, I know last week was a big week for room changes or request. I did email quite a few people that had asked for room changes and told them that we didn't have their specific location that they were looking for, or they were looking for a 2-bedroom in this location or 4-bedroom in that location. We just didn't have it to offer. But we are keeping a list of those students who have asked for those changes. So if we have any cancellations going forward, we'll keep up with that list and continue on down the list. Okay. We're not going to just, answer your email and say we don't have anything available and then be done with it. We're not going to ask you to continue to email us. We will keep that waiting list. This is different because we normally don't do that. We normally ask that you call into the office. But because we're not there on a regular basis, and because our students are not there to handle multiple phone calls, we are going to be able to keep a list and keep a running list of those who have asked for room changes. And we'll be in touch with you as soon as possible. Just continue emailing housing@latech.edu. Okay.
Thanks, Emily. You guys can you guys see a chat feature where you can chat with the host or send in a question? Yes, no, I don't know. Again, I'm technologically challenged. When I set this thing up, maybe I did something. I'm getting the emails that you guys are sending in with questions, and that's okay too, but I hate that can't ask the questions.
The next, looks like you can raise your hand.
Oh, you can raise your hand. Okay. Well,
there's somebody
I can't see very many hands on mine. So, are freshmen allowed a car on campus? That was a question that was asked. Absolutely. There is where you need to register the car and obtain a parking decal. Typically that's handled during orientation. I do know I talked to our chief of police last week about this, and they are working through the details of possibly sending, mailing out information about that, where maybe you can do that from home and send that payment in. And so they're looking at other ways. You'll hear from them, but yes, freshmen can have a car on campus, and the parking decal is $100, and it is good for the entire year. Definitely want to make sure that you have a decal parking on campus as well. Mr. Speed, you're up next, and then I'll get to the questions in my email. You're muted. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Sorry about that. That's what a computer science degree would do for you. That's good. If a parent is concerned about their freshman child living in a dorm due to the pandemic, will the student be given approval to live off campus and housing contract be terminated? We just need to kind of talk that out and see. I know at this time, that's part of one of the roles that I have, the person who looks at those first, and then I'm a part of the process if there's an appeal. And it just depends. I don't want to answer that because all the situations are unique and they're different. What I would ask in a situation like this is that you reach out maybe directly to me, and let's have a conversation and let you tell me what's going on and what's happening. Oftentimes you'll have a situation like this and someone will say that they don't want to live on campus because of a particular reason. And then when you ask how are they going to rectify that situation by moving off, they're really not doing that. And so we just need to talk through it. That's a hard one to answer without knowing more. If I had to give an answer, I would say that they're not automatically going to be approved. There's a reality to the fact that this pandemic is impacting students regardless of where they are. Luckily for us, none of our cases that we had over the last couple of months were on campus. I've researched some other institutions. The only one that stands out to me is the University of Florida. They had 26 student cases, and out of those 26, only one of the students resided on campus. So we would like to just talk to you and see. And that's the case really for anything as it relates to any questions or concerns that you have about your son or daughter living on campus. One thing I will say is we are committed to this being a part of their educational experience. We've long recognized that many of your sons and daughters are coming from their own home and have a lot of luxuries that, quite honestly, they're going to put to the side. They have to share a room. Many have never done that before. I still heavily believe in that experience, so much so that when my daughter, although I was director of residential life when we built our first set of apartments, when she came to Tech, I actually pulled her apartment. I put her in a traditional hall, and honestly, it's probably one of the best moves that I made. She appreciates it. She's glad for the experience that she had, and it's just made her a better, more well-rounded person, and it's helped her through this developmental process.
And that brought up a good point that I want to mention. You know, we hire resident assistants to work in our buildings, and we did those interviews by Zoom week before last. We had over 20 interviews for spaces, and every single one of them requested that they be placed in the suites or the traditional halls. Sometimes we struggle with putting staff in the apartments because they've lived there or they've heard, and then they want the community of the traditional halls and the suites, which is so important, especially with your first year. So I would challenge those of you who have students living in the apartments, because I know that you select there because of the amenity of the apartment, and that's, you know, a nice location to be in. But the struggle that we have with that is getting our students in our apartments to get out and to meet other people. It's much easier to do that in our traditional halls and in our suites because they're funneling through an entryway and through a lounge where they are seeing other people interact. And they meet people that way in just conversations. And so sometimes when you live in the apartments, you have to be more intentional of putting yourself out there and meeting people. And we really challenge our staff on that. We've had apartments for 15 years now at Louisiana Tech. And it continues to be a struggle every year. You know, what is something that we can do to get our students out and to get to know people? Block parties, you know, where they're walking by and picking up a donut on the way to class. We try to schedule those interactions with them as much as possible. And our staff do a great job. I'm not saying they don't, but just realize if you have a student that's in an apartment, just encourage them to get out and to seek those opportunities, because it is a little bit harder for them to get to know people around them. And that was a benefit of the community retreat that we loved having for our freshmen. And that's something that we're still trying to connect our residents. So if you have noticed, our residents have been invited to Zoom meetings this week. And as you can tell, we are not, we really don't know everything there is about Zoom as we're working through this one tonight. But we do know that it's an opportunity for students to ask questions. I sat in on one this morning with Graham residents. So we had about 16 residents that were there in our Graham meeting. And they just kind of got to see each other and ask questions, and we got to help them with some things that they were wondering about. So if your students living on campus, they're getting that through their tech email address to be invited to those Zoom meetings. And we plan on offering those every few weeks just to go ahead and start building some of that community. But please encourage them to participate. And I could pick out a few guys on the Graham call that mom probably told them to get on there and they weren't really too excited to be there, but hopefully they got some information out of it. And I enjoyed meeting and interacting with them. So encourage them to do that. And it'll help acclimate them and get them ready to be on campus with us in the fall. Okay, so I'm getting some questions by email. I apologize that this chat thing's not working.
Ms. Ingram, you may not like me for this, but I'm about to unmute Loretta, and she has her hand up, and I will let her.
I didn't see your hand. Okay, sure.
Loretta Tharp, go ahead. Okay,
can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Number one, the twin beds that are in the halls, do they come with a mattress, or do we need to bring our own mattress, or should we do a mattress cover if it does have a mattress?
It does have a mattress, and I would not. There's nothing wrong with bringing a mattress cover. I think a lot of students do.
Okay, my next question. My son is going to be staying in Graham Hall. Will they have room or be able to have a microwave or an air fryer or a coffee pot?
Okay, so I would advise you to check out our website. We do have a list of things that you can bring and that you shouldn't bring. So that is on there. I have had a few emails about that, so I'm glad you asked that. Yes, you can absolutely bring a microwave. We recommend the smallest that you can get, those 700-watt kind of college room microwaves. Refrigerators, I believe it's 4.8 cubic feet as far as what we recommend. It's just if you get something bigger than that, the number of people living in that location, you can throw breakers and that kind of thing. So that's why we try to keep the limit on that. And then as far as an air fryer, I don't believe that would be allowed in the building. As we get some of these new appliances, we have to ask our fire marshal for approval for those things. I don't believe that would be. As far as a coffee pot, so the old-timey coffee pots that have the heating element on the bottom where you can make a pot of coffee, those are not allowed. But the newfangled little Keurigs that have the heating element that's kind of inside of the machine, those are fine.
Okay. All right. And one more little quick housekeeping in the dorm. Do the dorms do house, like, will they have somebody come in, or are the boys responsible for mopping their floors and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, you're going to love this, Miss Loretta. They get to So our custodial, that's a great question, actually. We have a great custodial group, and in our traditional halls and in our suites, we have that community space. So the lounges, the bathrooms, those study areas, that front entryway, all of that, stairwells, our custodial staff keeps those clean, and they are there, like Mr. Speed said earlier, 5 days a week. Normally during this coronavirus, they're here 7 days a week cleaning those communal areas. But the actual room that the student lives in, and if your student's assigned to an apartment, we don't let our custodial group go into those apartments or into the actual rooms. And that's, to protect our students too, because they do have things in their rooms and we want that to be safe. But also we hope they learn a little bit about cleanliness while they're here too. So they are required to upkeep their own room and their own apartment. And we do have health and safety checks. So our RA staff goes in there for our apartments twice a quarter to check and make sure that they're upkeeping their apartment as they should be. And then for our residence halls, our staff's in there a good bit, and they're checking that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We have another person with their hand raised if you want me to unmute them.
Yeah, just did. Todd Turner.
Oh, Casey, you kind of cut out on my laptop when you were answering questions. I heard I guess it was the cubic feet. My son's going to be in Mitchell Hall for refrigerator.
Oh, you paused on me. The 4.8 cubic foot refrigerator, those would be the largest that our fire marshal has recommended for our buildings. So if he's in Mitchell, that's what I would recommend. Now, granted, they can bring, 2 per room. Sometimes both roommates will bring, their own fridge, and that's fine too. But we just ask per person that they abide by that. Mr. Todd, did I get your question? Okay. I'm blowing up with emails with questions, so maybe you should take the hand raising. I don't know if I can read the emails and answer.
If you guys do raise your hand, we're monitoring that, and either me or Ms. Cavan will unmute you. If you'll allow us to do that, I think we'll be able to do it orderly.
Jennifer Bailey is physically raising her hand. If I'll unmute her.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. My daughter, who's already been to college, is pregnant, and she's due September 9th. For some reason, she has her baby somewhere between the 4th and the 7th. And I can't be there to move him. Can I change that, or is that going to be an issue if she goes into labor on move-in day?
Oh, Ms. Bailey, we don't want you to miss your grandchild.
No, I don't, but I don't want to miss.
No, you contact us. You
College.
contact us if something like that happens, and as much as possible, we want you to know we work with you on a one-on-one basis as we can. We just have to have some rules and guidelines in place for the number of people that we're dealing with.
Right.
But y'all, we have requests all the time that we try to manage with, so we'll work with you, Ms. Bailey, on a move-in time.
Okay, that would be the only issue I would have, and hopefully it works out for me, but I just wanted to make sure.
Let's hope for a healthy and safe delivery. That's awesome.
So.
Congrats.
And you had me really confused for a while. My brain was starting to twirl. Tanya Brooks.
Hi, thanks. My question on the roommate selection, is there a way to see which dorm that person is assigned to? The roommate who already has their dorm assignment?
You can message students through the StarRes portal, and your son or daughter can ask that question. Chances are, if someone is already assigned, they more than likely already have a roommate. So there would not be a space in that room. But he's more than welcome to ask that question through the StarRes portal. He just, sends a message, kind of like a Facebook message or whatever, and he can ask that question where he's assigned, and try to get in that way. Now, once they do accept each other as friends, his friend, if he's already assigned, could not pull him in at that point. Your son would have to go in and physically select that spot. Does that make sense?
No, because there's like a list of 30 recommended roommates that when he goes to select a place to stay, there's about 30 recommended roommates. Are you saying they already have roommates, or?
Not necessarily, but he can message them and ask them if they already have an assignment and where they're assigned, or if they still need an assignment and a roommate. And you know, once they get back to you, a lot of them will say, "Hey, I'm sorry, this is where I'm assigned, and I already have someone assigned in my room," or whatever. StarRez is they're not gonna match. They're gonna match you with who you're compatible with based on your survey questions. It's not necessarily going to pull out the ones that already have an assignment.
And
Okay.
Ms. Brooks, I'll tell you, I have had a few questions through the email about that process. So if you're kind of late to applying or you're now looking for a roommate, how does that process work? Because a lot of students are already assigned. And I will tell you, it's a less effective process at this point as far as finding a roommate and living with them because of the space that we have available. And so I would ask the recommended roommates, it doesn't pull them automatically if they're already assigned somewhere. So you would have to reach out to them, like Miss Emily said. But then as far as communicating with where you want to live, you know, at this point we will get where we're pretty full, and so then it's just kind of limited availability as far as where you can be placed with your roommate of choice.
Okay.
Mary Willock.
Hi, good evening. So I am very new to all of this. My son applied and was accepted, and he accepted a scholarship, but I was wondering where do we start? We go to the website and apply for a room or to live on campus?
Yes, ma'am. You can go to our Residential Life website, and on there's a button that says apply now, and it's going to take you to our StarRez portal, which is how you apply for housing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We also have a how-to guide on our website. If you have not been through that portal process yet, that's very helpful. So that's a place to start as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I have seen some people with their physical hands up.
I see Missy.
I'm trying to, I guess, Lindsay, if you could make sure you get to those, and I'll keep going through our list that we have, because I don't want to leave anyone out. So I'm going to go on.
Yeah, if you guys email me a question, because I have a lot of those and we don't answer them, then I will email you back the answer to that question. Go ahead.
Tina Regard, maybe?
Yes. Hi. Okay, my question is, my son and I completed his housing application on May 5th, and we paid the application fee, but it's not letting him make a room selection. It says we're waiting for him to be emailed a time slot. So I'm just wondering, how long does it typically take for him to get a time slot that's available after you pay your application fee?
You said May 5th?
Yes.
Okay. May 1st, I opened it up completely, so there should not be a time slot needed. That's one of those that I'm going to have to pull up his information in his portal and kind of see what he's seeing. So if you want to email me his information, I'll look that up for you this evening and reply back to you.
Okay, what's your email?
Spoon, ESPOON @lawtech.edu.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I see a Missy Dartez.
Missy Dartez is got the physical hand.
Okay, and I'm unmuting
Caller.
Well, not to confuse you further, Dr. Spoon, Missy's right there.
Hello.
So I got a two-part question. My son Wyatt has applied for FREP, but I'm not sure if we're supposed to see an acceptance for that before he does housing for FREP. Also on the application page, it asked if he had already had housing for the fall semester and where he was, and we applied that. Does that indicate that he might actually be placed in that same apartment for FREP?
For his assignment, not necessarily. All of the FREP students are going to be assigned in Dudley Suites for the summer, because that's where all of our summer students will be housed, and we'll assign all of our FREP students together. So I'm not sure where he's assigned for the fall. Typically, if we weren't having the AC issues that we were and getting the chiller and everything replaced this summer, your FREP students would be housed in Graham, and we would try to get them assigned into their same room if they were there for the fall. But that's not an option for this summer. So, and as far as, I don't know if he has to be accepted into the FREP program. That's something that the engineering department would have to answer for you.
Leslie
So-
Brewster is who I would reach out to if you have her contact information.
Well, if he has not been accepted, then it wouldn't let him in the housing portal for the second summer, correct?
Not necessarily, no, sir. We don't know if they've been accepted or not into the FREP program. So any student that wishes to live on campus for second session can apply. We don't necessarily look
Okay.
to see if
Well,
they're-
we haven't applied yet because we just didn't know if he was actually going to go to FREP,
Right.
whether he'd been accepted yet. So we didn't want that to slip by the wayside.
Okay, just check with Miss Leslie and she should be able to help you out and then you can apply.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And for the most part, if they've been invited into the FREP program, they will be accepted. I know they have some deadlines, so you may want to check into that. Any of the parents who are on here, whose son or daughters have been invited to the FREP program, I highly recommend it. It's a bridge program, and I've done a lot of research on bridge programs. And I will tell you this, FREP is specifically for engineering, specifically for math. They do have another course. It's heavily scholarship. You really won't find a better deal, and get ready for some bumps and bruises because it's a program that's designed to pick them, take them really high, drop them. They'll pick them back up, they'll wipe them off, but they'll teach them how to navigate the processes of college, and they'll do it before everyone else is here. They'll get to meet faculty and staff members on a really one-on-one basis. It's just, I've been following it for years. It's a really good program that I highly, highly recommend. I see Becky Smart. Oh, I'm sorry, Lindsay.
That's okay. I had Kathleen Bigler,
Oh.
is that the right way to say it, that had their hand raised. Let me
Okay,
see if I
Becky,
can
we'll
go back.
get to you next.
Let me see if I can find you again. Kathy,
I think maybe we had her earlier.
did we already answer your question? Okay, I'm gonna unmute you right now. I think.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my daughter is in Aswell Suites, and she is wondering if there is a washer and dryer on each floor, or if she has to go upstairs, close. And then my second question is if there's a fire code as far as hanging stuff on the wall. Is it like so many inches down? Can she hang anything?
Okay, question about the laundry. So there is within the suites specifically, there is a washer and dryer on each floor in the suites. And it is included in the suite price. So there's not, in our traditional halls, you do pay the 75 cents to wash, 75 cents to dry. In the suites, that's not the case. It's all included, and there's a washer and a dryer on each floor. The other question about what you can hang on your wall. So we recommend what's the name of it? The little command strips. The command strips as far as hanging things on the walls, because you can pull those off pretty easily and not cause any damage. We'd ask that you not nail anything into the wall. As far as, how high, we do ask that fire marshal will not let us have anything hanging from the ceiling or attached to the ceiling. And he does make regular visits through our locations to make sure that students are abiding by that. But nothing specific about, how high and that kind of thing. But that's kind of our recommendation as far as what to hang with is the command strips. Did that answer your question, Ms. Kathy? Okay. You're welcome. Who's next?
Okay, Becky. Well, I'm trying to let her speak. Oh, sorry.
Bless you, sweetheart.
Hold on one second. Oh, shit.
I've been asked while they're trying to work that out, technical difficulties, I guess. I've been asked about bike racks. Several people have emailed about bike racks, and do we have that on campus? Y'all, the bikes on campus have multiplied in the last few years. Students are using bikes, and that's great. Sometimes it's hard for us to keep up with the space to provide bike racks for them because we try to make sure that those are on concreted areas. But yes, so each of our suite buildings has bike racks, and then there are within our legacy park, those locations have them. All of our locations have them. It's just sometimes, like Mitchell, for instance, there's, you know, the number of people that live in Mitchell and the space provided, sometimes it does get very crowded. Actually, before all the coronavirus happened, the week before, I was advised to go ahead and purchase some more for fall, and that's kind of fell on the wayside a little bit, so I'll make sure to pick that back up. But yes, bikes are allowed, and we do have bike racks on campus, and we oftentimes have to advise our students not to park their bikes in the stairwells because we do get written up for that by fire marshals. So please encourage them to use the bike racks and bring a lock, and also register their bike. You can do that through the police station, and that's a great thing. You get a decal. I don't know how much it is, but it's really not much to register their bike, and it's a great thing to have while utilizing that on campus.
I think it's like $15 to $25.
Okay.
Madonna James, you can go ahead. Becky Smart, I am trying to unmute you. I'm not sure if it's something on your side. It won't let me unmute. So we're going to go to Madonna James. See if there's anything on your computer where I can unmute you.
Okay. I think you guys had answered the question somewhat, but it kind of came out all jarbled on my side. But it was for the FREP. I guess since it's still going on. My son's really been diligent about trying to handle everything himself and kind of leaving me out of the loop on some of the stuff. But I am getting emails periodically that allow me to kind of get an idea of what's going on. But what all will he need to bring with him just for that duration that he's there, and what kind of time frames between that program to when he actually starts in the fall?
Okay. I would recommend bringing, I'll let them, well, go ahead, Casey, I'll let you answer this one.
Well, our FREP students that we move in for that second session, we treat them like, students on campus. So a lot of times they're bringing what they're planning on bringing for the fall to live on campus with us. And like Miss Emily said, in years past, they're able to go ahead and move into their fall room if they're planning on living in Graham. And so a lot of them really bring everything, but because we're not having air this summer, we're not placing them there. And so I would encourage them to bring as much as they want to. We do work with those students, just like we do our students who live on campus for the summer, in transitioning to their fall location. And so before he leaves that FREP program in the summer, we ask that they go ahead and move in to their fall location if it's up and ready to go. And so we will send them all of that information while they're here on campus. And so if he wants to go ahead and bring everything, can certainly, move it over to his fall location. If you'd rather wait and have some things to send later, that's perfectly fine. But a lot of our FREP students move in as though they're moving in on moving day.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Becky Smart, you're ready to go.
Hey, I don't even know if this could be answered yet. Y'all are talking about the disinfectant standards, and I know right now the state is going to go into phase 1, and we're still under the social distance thing. But come September 4th, when it's time for the students to actually move into a dorm, will we be able to help the students move in? Or y'all still going to try to do the 25% capacity and everybody's going to be touching on everything? And I just wonder how that's going to work.
I hope by the time we get to September 4th, we're not having to implement some of the strategies and some of the guidelines that we have now. As Ms. Ingram stated, right now, the students that live on campus, we are asking them not to have any outside guests in. Of course, when we're full, there are quite a few who are already in those locations. So I think it'll be different by September, but it's hard to say. I would say that we will allow for parents to move in if there is many precautions in September as there are at this current time, if we've not moved to a different stage, what we would probably do is just spread out the move-in process. You heard Ms. Ingram earlier state that they decided not to do the community retreat, which is something we do not like, because it's an opportunity to help acclimate that student to campus, get to know a lot of administrators across campus, but we just realized that because of what we're going through, we may have to have more time for actual move-in. So that's more than likely what we would do, is just spread out move-ins, so there's not as many people moving in at one time. I think Ms. Ingram has a meeting with SGA about the dog hall to see if there are still possibilities there, which what that does is provide a little bit of assistance and a little bit of help from our current students and student organizations, where they help during the move-in process.
I do appreciate it. Thank you.
I lost my list. Katie Vickner, if I said that wrong, I apologize. Coming back to get you so that I can unmute you. Where'd you go? I might have lost her. Okay.
We can let Norby up. Get it to work.
Yeah.
Well, I can't get them to work.
Oh, there she is. I found Katie.
Hi.
I'll be back.
I can't get Norby's frame to work.
Miss Norby, she's on here.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
I had a question about the window dimensions for curtains. I assume you can't drill into the wall, that's obvious, but for spring load reasons, like the rods, can you tell me how wide they are, how tall they are in Aswell Suites?
No, ma'am, I can't. My brain holds only so much information. And did I mention I have 5 kids, so I've been working at home with 5 kids, so it's even less now.
Bless your heart, yeah.
That's something that was brought up last week with us in planning for fall, and knowing that we're working remotely, is to provide some of that on our website as much as we can. And so we could probably do that for as well. The problem that we have with especially some of our apartments is that while we love our architects and our designers that we've been working with for the last few years, we're not sure they love us as much. And so a lot of those windows are, it doesn't matter what apartment you go to, the window's a different dimension in one than it is in the other. And it's really hard to provide that. That's kind of a blanket for everybody in those locations, because each one is so different. But that is something that we hope to be working on in the next few weeks, because we do have some staff that are living in those locations, and we can send them in to take some dimensions as best as possible. So we will work on that, Ms. Norby, and try to get that out on the website in the next couple of weeks for you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, do you have a son or a daughter?
I have a son.
Okay, now I'm gonna tell you mamas now. Sons may not want these curtains. Ask them. There was a statement sent to me that the Dudley Suites have twin beds, not twin XL. And so I'm not going to reveal who sent it to me, but what I'm going to say is I work with these ladies who are on the phone. So it's kind of like me going against my own wife. I'm not going to do that because I work with them all the time. What I will tell you is this, that the mattresses are 80 inches. So I don't know if they give dimensions maybe on the XL versus regular twin sheets, but we do know they're 80 inches. And we do get this question quite a bit, so I don't know if there are 2 types of XL twin sheets.
Am I the one that said it was XL?
I don't remember her saying XL. She just said twin.
No, it's just, no, they're all twins, regular twins.
Okay, so you're in agreement then?
Yes, sir. I apologize if I gave the wrong information.
Oh.
Again,
Well,
working with a little bit of brain power tonight.
just wanted to make sure. We have, who's next?
It's Katie next. I finally found her.
Okay.
All right, I'm unmuting you now, Miss Katie. There you go.
I have a
question about going back to FREP. So my son, he did not get into FREP, but he is going to do a summer session, the second summer session, to take his math course. He has 3 friends who are going into FREP. Would they be able to room together over the summer if they're FREP and he's not FREP?
She's got me muted. I can't Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I was like, help. Okay. All of our summer students, FREP or our regular students, will be housed in the Dudley Suites. And I will assign all of the second section students. That includes all the FREP students. So if just tell them to email me. I try to reach out to all the students and ask if they're coming for first or second session. And then if they have a preferred roommate, to let me know that so I can work on that as well. So just tell them to email me.
Okay.
And I'll work to get those guys. I don't know if I can get them. I'll get them as close as I possibly can. It just depends on how many more I have in that area. And we do have students that are going to be here for full summer session too. And we don't.
Is it 2 students per room or for that? Yes. Okay. Okay. That was all.
I will tell you, Miss Katie, we're working for our summer students to, if we have the space, to put them 1 per room, just in the midst of us, getting back into these phases. So we are offering that to some of our summer students. Some are opting they'd rather have a roommate, and that's totally fine. But that may be an option that we're able to offer for second session. We just don't know that yet, but typically it is 2 per room.
Okay, thank you.
John Ellis?
Hey, yeah. So I heard at another university that students are not allowed to plug, for instance, to access the university Wi-Fi with things like Xbox. There are specific things like your phone and your laptop can access the Wi-Fi, but your Xbox or something like that can't. Does that hold true with tech?
I can say that my family has a PlayStation 4 and we are into the tech Wi-Fi through our PlayStation 4. So I don't know if that's helpful from an Xbox standpoint, but from a PlayStation 4 it works for us.
I think we'd have an uprising if we were to do that. We have a esports arena that's on the 2nd floor of our student center. That's a very popular area. Of course, the time we were letting our students go, we were still allowing students to go in, so we were socially distancing. We have esports club teams. And so one of the things that Louisiana Tech has committed to doing is try to use this affinity towards online gaming and some of the competitions as a part of their overall educational experience. Now, we know all of them won't go into any type of gaming career, but we do recognize that when they're playing Overwatch, they're playing on teams and they're devising strategies. We do know that there are some studies that are out there, and I know some of our kinesiology professors and researchers are looking at the hand-eye coordination and some of the things that benefit students and some of the things we can use in a positive way. So I think pulling some of those things completely would be counterproductive to the overall college experience. I will say this, there are a lot of parents who have approached me, as my wife and I have talked about this as well, about how much time is too much time. Why would we build an esports arena when that encourages them to get into these areas? And my answer to that is I would prefer them to be up in our esports arena where we can monitor them, where we can monitor how much time they're on these games. Whereas if they're in their room isolated, especially if they're in an apartment, especially if they're in a room in that apartment, it just gets to a point where that's a concerning situation. And I had a situation that happened years ago, and this is when online gaming was at its initial stages, but I had a young man that I walked in on who had actually been on one game for 18 hours straight. And needless to say, we had a long conversation. We had a long walk. We had a walk over to the counseling center, and he was dealing with some things. We know there are concerns in this area, but we're aware of that. I think Ms. Ingram and her staff, they're aware of that. We know that gaming is a thing that's kind of here. It's a part of their generation. We're just trying to make sure we manage it the best we can. But at this point, we have not talked about excluding things like Xboxes. My wife has me turn off the Xbox Wi-Fi all the time, but here we have not done that yet.
Okay, I had Michelle. She's been very patiently holding her hand up. I'm coming for you. There she is. Okay, here we go.
Hi, thanks. I have two questions. One, is there a way to find out if my daughter has been assigned a dorm room and roommate because we've completed everything, made all the payments. She doesn't remember receiving an email to confirm that. And then she's also having huge challenges accessing her tech email. What do you recommend her to do that? Solve that.
As far as her assignment, we don't assign students. Is this for the fall or the summer?
The fall.
Okay, yes, ma'am. We don't assign students at all.
So like they picked, like
yes.
her and her, like they picked each other. Like how do we know it's confirmed?
Well, there's two parts. They select each other as roommates. That's how you confirm roommates. But that doesn't assign you to a room. They have to do the second part and go in and actually select a room.
So they did that.
They can log on to their StarRez portal and see their assignment.
And you need a username and password for the StarRez portal?
It's their campus-wide ID and their password. It's a 6-digit number that StarRez assigns you.
Sorry.
Yeah.
6-digit ID. Okay.
Miss Michelle, I got your email too, so I'll respond probably tomorrow. I'll look it up and see if I can help you with your question.
Okay, and then how can she get into her tech email?
Okay, so the tech email, that is given through our computing center. So if they're having an issue accessing their tech email, we advise them to contact the help desk. And that number is 257-5300.
Wait, 257?
It's 318-257-5300. Or they can email at helpdesk@latech.edu. Helpdesk.
Helpdesk at
latech.edu. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And they're real good at helping you get through that. But I'll try to look up your email. If you guys are emailing me and we don't get to your question, I'll try to respond tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Speed, do you have another one? Because I have one.
Yes, we have Christina Edstrom.
Yep. Hello. I noticed that Mitchell Hall has carpeting. Do you provide vacuums or do I have to send one with him? That's the first question. And then I also noticed Mitchell Hall does not have dressers. My kid is coming from out of state and I don't know where he's going to put all of his clothing, and he's going to have suitcases, and those rooms are way smaller than the ones we toured when we were down there. So I'm real worried about, like, do you have storage facilities for him to put this stuff in? Because that dorm room is really teeny, and without dressers, I don't know where to put his clothes. I mean, there are 5 small dressers and that won't hold pants and shorts and shirts and jackets and everything else that he needs for the whole year. So I'm a little worried because it's over 15 hours for him to get home, and it's not like I can just drive him down, hey, here's some winter clothes or here's some summer clothes. So I'm a little concerned about the size of his dorm room. So
okay, so first question about the vacuum. Most of our students, if they vacuum, which they should, will bring their own vacuum or have a small vacuum to bring. We do have vacuums within the residential facilities that our custodians use, and oftentimes they get to know our custodians really well, and so they'll say, you know, hey, Mr. Billy, can I borrow your vacuum and vacuum my room? And so they can certainly do that. And then as far as space in the room, so yes, in Mitchell, they have the 5 drawers in the closet for them to use. They also have the desk area. What I've seen a lot of students do is the bed risers, so where you can lift the bed up, and sometimes they'll put drawers underneath their bed as well to be able to use as kind of a dresser, or a lot of times to store some of that, like you mentioned, because if you're close by, sometimes you'll see students bring only summer clothes or spring clothes, and then they'll transition out to their winter clothes. But with him being so far away and maybe not being able to do that, maybe storing some things underneath the bed. I have seen a good bit of students do that and try to lift their bed as much as possible to get some storage space there.
Okay, but do you have any storage facility
We
no?
do not have any storage facilities on campus.
Okay.
Now, if he wanted to purchase, like a storage unit off campus, there is one that, there are some that are close by to campus that he could certainly do that. And I pay them, I guess, a monthly fee for that as well. But we don't have anything on campus as far as storage facilities.
So is it possible for me to bring risers when we come for orientation? Because it's not like I can drive down there anytime to do this, so I can get actual measurements with the risers, how much space he has and what size suitcase can fit. And I just don't want him to bring all this stuff down and then I have to bring it all home, because I'm just, like I said, if I was even 6, 7, 8 hours away, I wouldn't worry about it, but I'm not.
Miss Christina, don't worry about it. That's what we're here for. We're going to help him through. I don't want you to stay up worrying about the bed risers, but you're not going to be able to do it during orientation because we can't let you into that room. But what we can do is and we try to work with you one-on-one on our staff can try to help you with how far, it is. And you can find that online as far as from the bottom of the bed to the floor.
I was told it was 7 inches.
And then add your bed risers to that, and that'll kind of help you know how much you'd be able to gain space there. But I'll tell you, and I'll say this because I'm a mom, and I already told you I'm a mom of 5, but sometimes we worry about a lot of things that our students get to figure out on their own, and they make it work. And I'll just tell you, I have 4 staff members and 3 of us we're moms, and so we'll certainly help him, Miss Christina, figure all that out when he gets here if you're not able to. And that's the purpose of this Zoom, is we want you guys to see us, to know us, and to feel comfortable sending your students to stay with us, because we're going to be there for them and help them answer questions and kind of navigate that. And I'll tell you, I try to come to work every day and look at these students and think, this is going to be my child one day, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of and they have somebody like that, that's able to be there for them. So we're going to take care of them, Miss Christina. And if you have any questions like that specifically, especially with you being far away, email us and let us help you one-on-one with that.
Okay, thank you.
What's his major?
He's a double engineering major.
Okay, and here's something, and I definitely don't want you to take this personally, because it's not. It's just something that I've learned throughout the years. I think his double engineering major starts with some of these problems that you have presented to us. They're real problems, they're real issues, because you're a long way away. What I'll tell you is we're going to work with you. We're going to do what we can. No, we don't have storage, but if it's to a point where we have to do something, we'll do it. We just can't say we have storage because we just don't have the space. Yeah. We barely have space to keep some of our maintenance equipment. What we will guarantee you, though, is that we'll work with you, and that this process, although it's going to be tough because of the distance and because of the fact that it's not a trip to Monroe or a trip to Shreveport, which are 30 minutes and an hour away. It's kind of a one-time opportunity for you to get everything down here. But I'm also comfortable. I'll never forget the room in Cottingham that we had. And the students literally made it into two stories, 2 floors. They literally put a deck within the room and put their sleeping items underneath the deck. And on top, they had their living space. We're not recommending that. That took a lot of time, a lot of effort. We knew this was safe because we had to make sure that it was. We don't want everyone doing that. I've also seen lofts that go across the top of a room. There's so many different things we can do. But in my 25 years working with residential life, I've never seen a situation where we can't navigate through it and make things work. So that's where we'll give our commitment, is to making sure we make it work. And then making sure that he does some things that are just a little bit unique to make his situation work as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, Miss Phyllis has been patiently waiting. Let me come and get her. There she is. Okay, I'm gonna unmute you now.
Okay, thank you. My son's going to be in the band, so do they normally move in earlier?
Yes, they do.
Yes, ma'am. Typically, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Typically, our band moves in earlier, and we haven't received those dates quite yet. But they do move in earlier. We work with them as far as moving into their fall space. And our staff, our RAs and hall directors, are here 2 weeks before move-in day as well. They're doing some training and some conference, and then getting our campus ready for students, so they're able to assist with that check-in process.
Okay, and did I misunderstand something? I thought y'all said something about Dudley having 2 to a room. Does it typically have 3? Because I thought they were assigned 3 in their room.
Dudley Hall has 3 to a room for the most part, but Dudley Suites is 2 per room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't realize it was 2.
very confusing because there's a Dudley Suites, Dudley Hall, Aswell Suites, Aswell Hall.
Okay, I didn't realize they were 2 different ones. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Speed, do you have another one?
Yes, I have is it Ashland Falcon? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Just a question for the sheets. I know that you said that it's a twin size mattress, but if we plan on doing an egg crate on top of that, would it be safer to get a twin XL, or will the twin still work?
You know, I back in the day when I was on campus, also had an egg crate that I put on my mattress, and I just got the regular sheets. I didn't purchase the XL, and it worked fine as far as I can remember. So I think that would work fine. I also got an email from Mr. Cook who said that the XL is considered the 80-inch mattress, and that's what we have. So I don't know, you know, if it depends on brand, what's considered XL and regular, but the mattresses are 80 inches. Does that help?
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Miss Gabriella, did you still have a question? Okay, I'm gonna unmute you now. Oh, just there we go.
Okay, so my son, he's applying for FREP, and he's asking regarding the application, does he have to select Dudley, or do you guys select that for him?
I will make the assignments for FREP because they're coming second session. We don't assign those until a little bit closer to time. And yes, I will make those assignments for him, and just I'll send him an email to let him know.
So all we need to do is just pay the deposit, that's all, and then you take care of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
I have a Deshaun Frost. Frost?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to know, when do we pay the deposit for FREP?
Are you talking about? Are you talking about for housing specifically for FREP?
Yes.
Miss Emily, can you?
That's when you apply. You would pay that fee. If you already have a fall assignment, and I'm sure this might help a lot of people, I should have mentioned this earlier. If you already have a fall assignment, you don't have to pay the fee twice. Okay, so if your son already has a fall assignment, we can go in there and I can override that fee for the summer. That way he won't pay a deposit or an application fee for the fall. I mean, for the summer for the FREP program. I would just assign him, send him an email to let him know he's been assigned and taken care of.
Okay.
If you already have paid the fee twice, let me know and I can go back and refund one of those. Usually I try to catch that, especially if you pay it on the same day or something like that. If you apply for, you know, the fall application and the summer application, and you pay those 2 application fees, I can catch it. But if it's days or weeks or months apart, then I don't necessarily see that. So just send me an email and I'll get one of those fees refunded to you.
Okay.
I don't see any more hands up on the board.
Either.
I'm not able to watch for physical things.
I see Ann's got one up, so I'll unmute you now. Here you go, Miss Ann.
Yeah, my son wanted to know about mail, like receiving packages. Do they get a box they send it to, or how does it work for actual physical mail?
Yes, ma'am. So there are, we do have our campus post office, and they have a post office box that they will be, once they get here to campus, and they may do this during orientation. I'm really not sure, but I know once they do, Miss Lindsay, when they get to orientation, they're able to go by the post office and get their PO box, and then also their combination that gives them access to that PO box. And then you can, start sending them mail and packages that way. If it's something that is a FedEx or UPS that it doesn't come through to their post office, or if you have something that requires another address other than a post office, if you'll check on our Facebook page for your specific housing location, it has that address that you can mail it to. I believe it's 305 Wisteria, but please double check that. And it gets sent to the post office, and they'll just pick it up there and bring their ID with them.
You still have to pay for orientation? You still have to pay for orientation?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Miss April has a question. Hold on. Oh, I'll get to unmute her. Hey, Miss April, you're getting some workout going on.
I'm trying. Okay, so my son wants to know if for orientation he can choose who he rooms with, because he wanted to room with his already chosen roommate. They've scheduled to go at the same time.
So I'll tell you how we typically do our orientation. Now, I don't, there's so much change in here. I'm not really sure, but usually when we're assigning or putting students in a room for orientation, we really just take it as they walk up and as they're in line, and we put them together. So we don't assign them ahead of time as to where they're going to stay for orientation. So as long as if they can meet up and get in line together, then we can try to put them in a room together.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think Mr. Frost
has another one.
Let's see.
Okay.
I can't seem to unmute him.
There. Yes, ma'am. If my son signed up for the FREP, do he still have to pay for the orientation?
Good question. Mr. Speed, do you know? Do FREP students attend orientation?
I know with Bridge to Bulldogs, they do not. Is that correct? I don't know about FREP.
I honestly don't know, Mr. Frost. If you want to shoot me an email, I can try to put you in touch with someone from the FREP program that could answer your question. If you want to send that to me by email, then I'll send that to our engineering and science and see if they can help you answer that.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, I would include Leslie Brister on that email. And I see Michelle LaCour.
Okay.
You're unmuted.
Oh, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Well, I just wanted to address that because I just had the conversation with Leslie and with the, I don't recall who else I spoke with that was helping us register for orientation, but they said that Leslie, if you were in FREP, they've tried to put you in orientation in the 4th session, and because of that, you would not be charged the extra because you already have your housing and your meal as part of the FREP program. So if you do get accepted to FREP, that would be the one where they placed you in that one, and there wouldn't be the additional charge, and they were going to refund session 3 money.
Oh, thank you, Miss Michelle. Did you get that, Mr. Frost?
And a lot of what's happening in the in the FREP program are the same things that we're trying to do in the orientation. It's getting them familiar with the university, introducing them to key people, to key terms, how to register for their classes. Those are all things that if they're in the FREP program or if they're in the Bridge to Bulldogs program, they're going to be getting. And so it makes sense that they do not charge them or that they don't have to actually go to another session. I know it's like that with Bridge to Bulldogs, or they do a lot of the overlaps. So thank you for helping us with that question.
I did have an email question in regards to orientation. Do students stay on campus during orientation? Yes, they certainly can and do. For our females, we assign into Adams and Dudley, and then for our males, they stay in Mitchell for orientation this summer. And then if we have any overflow, our spaces in Adams and Dudley, then we'll put our females in Cottingham. So yes, you do stay on campus for orientation.
Miss Katie has her hand raised, so let me unmute her. Okay.
Emily, you had said a while ago about they didn't have to pay the fee for FREP if they were already assigned for fall housing. Does that apply for just a summer class also? Like if he's registered to come take a summer class for that second session,
Yes.
do I still have to pay a fee for if he's already assigned for fall housing and everything?
No, ma'am. We just ask that you pay the one application for one or for one term. So ideally, you would apply for summer first, and it would automatically override for that fall application. But if you did not, that's fine. Just let me know, and I can refund that summer one for you. And
okay, I hadn't paid it yet. I just want to make sure before I go in and do it.
Okay, just email me so I can override that once you do start that summer application, and it won't even ask you for that fee.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I am unmuting Heidi Roberson.
Hi. I just have two questions. If you have put in an apartment request change and you haven't heard anything by now, is it still being worked on, or will I hear back regardless if it's been granted or not granted?
Yes, I do have your email still, and we're still working on those. Like I said, as soon as we get cancellations, I continue to work on those emails. So I hope to have your son assigned here pretty soon. You should hear from me, okay?
Okay. And on the 2-bedroom freshman apartments, are they 2-bedroom, 1 bath for 4 people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Those have been altered. They used to be private bedroom and they're no longer private bedroom. Is that
right.
how that? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Not in the freshman locations.
Okay.
Well, it depends which one. Some of the ones in University Park were transferred into 2 per room. The ones in Legacy Park were built specifically for 2 people per room.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Miss Jennifer has been patiently begging us.
Question. One more question. Parents, when we come to orientation also, I know obviously there's hotels somewhere around for us to stay, right? If we're coming in a motorhome, do you have any suggestions, or is there anywhere on campus we could park?
Lincoln Parish Park has a great campground, and it's about 10 minutes from campus. So that's a lot of parents do that.
Okay, so, but nowhere like on campus, can you park it instead? So it has to be, okay. So Lincoln Parish. All right, well, that's all I had. Only other question I had, I think.
On campus, I would say, although there will be construction, I would say the football parking lot, because during football games, that's where people actually camp and tailgate and all those types of things. So they're used to that. So it shouldn't be a problem there, but I probably would go with what Ms. Lindsay recommended, and I'd go with.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was anywhere to stay where I wouldn't have to bring, I know my son will drive, so he'll have a vehicle. I was just curious, did I need to bring my car too to get from the park back to the school was my only question.
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
I have a question that asks about printing allotment, printing at the library or student union, so they don't have to bring a printer. So we do have printing options. I know the 10th floor of the library. I know the computing center in the Tonk, and where else? There's a few locations, and you get X amount that you can actually print per week, I believe it is. Generally, students don't go over that allotment, and they even have allotment for 3D printing as well. So yes, that is available. I may just have to find out a little bit more about how many spaces, but I know there are at least two or three across campus, and we had talked about at one time putting some in the residence halls. Casey, I don't know where we are on that.
I'm not sure either. We had talked about with the SGA and that possibility, so we might have to renew that. But I know a lot of students use those alternate locations for printing. Who else?
Any other questions? There is normally a chat button. I don't see it. I was going to put a digital copy of my business card in there. I will give you my email address, which is speed@lawtech.edu. Actually, I think it's up there. Yeah, our email addresses are on our names, so I know mine and Casey's are. Lindsay, Kevin, Emily Spoon's are not, but our email addresses are up there. If you will email me, I will gladly email one of my digital cards. What I would ask that you do is that you please pass that on to your son or your daughter. I love my parents. I have a self-proclaimed degree in momology, but I really want to help your son or daughter begin this process of learning how to reach out to people who want to help them and help them through whatever bumpy roads that they may encounter, or just to have some people that are going to hold them accountable, keep them on the right track. As I stated in the beginning, it takes extreme flexibility. It's a process. It's not what they're accustomed to. Most do just fine, but when they don't, know that we are here to help them and to assist them. So you guys will just email me. I will just shoot you an email in return. If you want to text me, I will also return my card to you. Just text me and say, please send your card. If you want to include your name and information, I'll jot that down. My number is 318-680-5959, and we will try to help you in whatever way we can. I absolutely love Residential Life. This is a great staff. I have the honor and privilege of working with 6 different departments across campus, Residential Life being one, admissions, recreation, international student office, student activities, and student conduct. And I just work with great people who really care about this developmental process and this learning process, and just work with us and let us know that we believe in education outside the classroom, and that's what we have those opportunities to do. So we are here for you. And we have another question. I didn't see that. I was about to sign out. Okay, we have 2 more questions. Mr. Frost, you're up again.
Yes, sir. When will I know if my son was approved for the freshman enrichment program? And it starts July 12th. Would we, if he's approved, would we have to move him in before July 12th or on July the 12th?
As far as the approval, I would check with Leslie Brister and see where he is in that process. And as far as moving in, you'll be sent some information as it relates to when the move-in and check-in times are. Generally, the FREP program, the the Bridge to Bulldogs program, they work as groups. So they're going to do a lot in their cohort groups. So a lot of that information is going to be sent out, and they'll be doing things as groups.
Okay, I have one more.
Oh, Mr. Frost, I was just going to tell you the FREP and Bridge will be checking in that Sunday, July 12th. We don't have the exact times yet, but typically they're in the afternoon. So you'll get some information, but it will be on that date. Sorry, Mr. Frost, did you have another question? I cut you off.
Scholarship, the summer scholarship didn't cover. And I was trying to see when would that be due and who and how would I pay that? To who and how would I pay it?
It's going to show up on their, on basically their fee sheet. And I mean, I've seen that particular email. What I would say is, again, Leslie Brister would be able to answer that. I don't think it's actually due until a little bit closer to that time period. But reach out to Leslie Brister. Her email is lbrister, LBRISTER, I believe, at lawtech.edu.
Miss Michelle has her hand raised. She might be our FREP
Oh,
specialist.
yeah, I forgot. That's who answers FREP questions.
Go ahead, Miss Michelle. I don't think you're muted.
Have anything to do with FREP, but I don't know. I just know they're still in the process, and they've emailed a couple times to say we're still in the process. It's just taking longer because of they can't get together at a conference room and shell this out, hash it out. But my question is about FERPA, and Mr. Speed, do we have to have one on file with you? How many places do we have to have one on file with in order for y'all to discuss our kids with us if we have a specific question?
You generally just have to do it through the registrar's office.
And then you have a magic button. You'll have a magic button that is there.
we check. That's probably not a good question for me because I'm probably going to get fired because of FERPA. Because I care about your son or daughter enough to tell you what I think you need to know. So if you ever call me and I sound really funny or won't really answer your question or I go off on a tangent, it's because we really need to make sure that he comes by, signs a document and says, I can speak to you. It's one of the areas, and quite honestly, I've gotten to a point where if it's serious, I tell a mom or dad to call our chief of police because he doesn't have the same requirements that I have. And so he can say and do he wants to, but again, it'll probably be my demise. That'll probably be how I lose my job because I do want to make sure that our young people are doing the right thing, but generally it goes through the registrar's office. Now, what we will accept is a written statement from that student. So if your son or daughter comes into my office and actually writes out, I give you permission to speak to and writes out your name, husband's name, whoever about their situation, and they sign it in front of me, I will generally talk to any parent. And again, I don't know if that's FERPA correct, but if I have that, I will at least put that up. And I guess if I ever go to the court of law, that's what I'll tell them. It's just one of those things we need to figure out the ways to have those conversations. Now, I will tell you this, there are going to be a lot of things that if I'm in a conversation with a parent that we're going to redirect back to your son or daughter from the standpoint of if it's something that they have to learn how to navigate. It's not that I'm not going to let you take care of their business. I'm just going to make sure we're doing what we can to prepare them to handle those situations. So again, don't mind working with parents in any way. Just want to make sure we're doing the right thing for the next generation and preparing them, because these are things that, you know, in 5, 6, 7, 8 years that they're going to have to kind of navigate on their own. And I have a 20-year-old, or actually a 19-year-old that's about to be 20, and one that just turned 22, and then a 12-year-old. So I'm watching this and trying to navigate. Even as a parent, they think I'm the meanest thing on earth just because of what I do. And I'm constantly telling them, no, you're going to have to learn to do this on your own. So registrar's office is where you officially do it, but you can kind of officially do it in some other ways. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Becky. I'm trying to unmute you. You're not. I don't know.
Sometimes it's not letting you unmute. I don't know what that's about.
Oh.
Okay, there it is.
Wait,
okay, here I am. Okay, this goes back to Graham Dorm. You know, y'all said that they can have like a microwave, a refrigerator, a Keurig. My son's probably going to have a computer. They may or may not have a printer. We're not sure if we're going to let them have their own printer or not yet. And being it's an older dorm, I'm assuming they don't have too many receptacles. Are they allowed to bring power strips?
We recommend it, highly recommend it. Even in a newer facility, shucks, even newer houses these days, I do recommend a, and I forgot what you call them. There's a rating, but I would definitely recommend that type of power strip on any high-end piece of equipment. So a computer, if it's a desktop, especially a desktop. Laptops have a little bit more flexibility in their circuitry and how they work, but any desktop computer, I would make sure it was plugged into a true power strip. If you look at them, it's not the $5 one. It's the one that's going to have, and I forgot what it was. If you want to know, I'll look it up and you can email me. But I do recommend that, not just in the older facilities, but the newer ones as well, because you can still have some pretty big power surges and it still happens. So I would definitely recommend that.
Okay, so probably he and his roommate will each probably have it, hopefully one or two with all the stuff they have. And the other thing is, she had mentioned earlier that we could go online kind of right now and somewhat view the rooms before y'all do the 360 thing. Where online would I try to go to try to kind of see the Graham rooms?
Okay, so Miss Becky, we don't have the 360 yet. We're working on those, but you can
you said that was later.
Okay, yeah. So you can go on to when you go to the homepage, Life on Campus, and then Residential Life, and then you'll see in that menu, I think it says Housing Options. And then at the top of that page, it has a link to each housing location on campus. And so you'll click Graham, and then it'll take you to a page with some information about Graham, and it'll also have a video tour linked to that page that you can view Graham.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have Keisha. Oh, well, Keisha Combs. I'm trying to unmute. It's not allowing me. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, my daughter is scheduled for orientation for July. And for some reason that is canceled or due to the virus, how would that work? Do you get reimbursed or how do that work for us?
I think, well, and this is not one of my areas, but we all work really closely with that staff. I think what you'll see is you will see an online version of orientation. So we've started having some of those conversations and trying to figure out what that looks like. A lot of universities have already gone to that. We're trying to hold out. I mean, not just the orientation staff, but also all the way up to our president.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I think it's because Dr. Geis wants to walk around having conversations, meeting people. We all do. We just want to make sure we're taking extreme precautions.
Okay.
So if we get closer to that point and we're realizing that things are not going to be accessible, or we're not going to be able to do things like we normally do them, then we'll have to redefine that before then. But we do have some plans. I will tell you this, the areas that I work with, I have asked that they let me know any concerns they have. And there are some who have concerns. And so we're going to respect those concerns, but at the same time, we're still going to offer you those services. So there are some people who I know will provide what they would normally do during a normal orientation, but they're probably going to have to do it like this via Zoom. And I know, we get kind of zoomed out, or at least that's what I've been using. Seems to kind of use a different type of energy when you have to do this. And as I'm scrolling through these screens, and at one time we had, I don't know, 170 people on here. Generally, I'm not too overwhelmed, but I'm just sitting looking at all of you. It's just a new and different way of doing things. What we'll commit to is making sure that you're getting what you need and we're providing the services that we can provide. If we have to go to online in July, we also know that September looks different. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just means it looks different. We'll have to do some things in a different way. And so we'll be adjusting. I ask that your freshman son or daughter be flexible. We've had to be extremely flexible throughout all of this, and we'll continue to do so. It's impacting not just this country, but the entire world. And the one thing I love about Louisiana Tech is from the leadership on down, you just have people who are willing and ready to serve, and we're ready to help you through these processes.
Okay. And also, I know you said this is not your area, but this will also include for the fall for housing. If these doesn't work out, we will be notified that, changes have been made through tuition and everything with the housing application. I'm sorry.
Sure, yes. Definitely. If things change, things will change. So we'll be right there trying to help navigate some of those changes.
Okay.
It's hard to answer when you really just don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
So, but we'll be right there. We've shared some of our contact information, questions as they arise. It's going to be very unique for those of you who are in the state of Louisiana. We just had a message from the governor, and I spent probably 3 or 4 hours today just on recreation alone. And when are we going to open the recreation center back up? And I'll tell you, I was one of the ones that really kind of dug my heels in. And because of students being healthy, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and it's our holistic model to educating students, I really fought to keep that facility open. And it was one of the last facilities to close. And I can tell you, all these weeks later, I'm a different person. I have a different mindset. Back then, I was not listening to people talk about those who were asymptomatic. We just didn't know about that. So healthy people whose immune system is high and who didn't have outward signs or who didn't have any impacts or effects to their own personal body, we now know are carriers of this. So that completely changes my mindset. And we'll just shift and change as those types of things occur and happen. And one thing I realized with the groups that I was working with is I had people on all ends of the spectrum. I had some who flat out told me, I'm going to take every precaution that I need to take. And then I had some bouncing off a wall saying, let me back to work. I want to come back to work. Students are kind of in that group. They just want to come back. I hate that senior years were cut short. But we're going to do whatever we have to do, and I feel confident that we're going to do the right thing.
Okay, thank you.
I see a Jeff Cook. I'm going to unmute you because I see your hand, so, okay.
He's been holding it up for a while.
No, that's okay. So
You look like you're playing one of those online games. That looks like gaming chairs.
Yeah, no. So I'm just following up with the last conversation. I wasn't sure if this is where this was directed from or whatnot, but I know that my daughter was originally registered to go in July for orientation, and obviously with everything that's going on, all the orientation sessions got shifted, and at least in our case, we were automatically re-registered, so they shifted all of the orientation sessions to the right. And we were originally in session 3, and we've been automatically re-registered for what is now session 1 on the same dates. So I wasn't sure if that was what the person was talking about earlier, but obviously, yeah, with regards to once we get to that point, yeah, I mean, all your comments about what may happen at that point, should things change, we'll see how that plays out. But with regards to the orientations themselves, definitely check the email that your student had set up for that, because I noticed we actually missed it the first time. We had to go back and look, but my daughter did receive an email saying, hey, yeah, orientation changed and whatnot. You've been re-registered for this one now. So just check for that.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. And you brought up something that I want to reiterate too. I think I said it earlier, but just as far as residential life and the communication that we have with you guys, we send emails to the student's tech email address. That's what's in our housing system. And so as we're communicating with students throughout the summer, and even as they're here during their time on campus, it's always going to go to their tech email address. So I know a lot of you get those emails that are inputted on the admissions application, but that changes over once you get into Res Life. So please encourage them throughout this summer to be checking their tech email address to get updates from us. That's where we'll send in, move-in information specific for them to their tech email address. So.
We're also doing something new in our buildings. We're doing Zoom calls with their residents since we can't do our Paul Prince community retreat. I know the buildings that I supervise will be in back-to-back Zoom calls all day tomorrow, just to kind of introduce ourselves and to kind of ease some of their concerns like you guys have, and then to do a few little icebreakers with them so they can kind of get to know the girls or the people who are going to be living around them. It is really hard for us to not have the community retreat. It is one of the things that we love, because we do love for your students to feel as at home here as we do. And so we're just trying to be creative and think of ways that we can try to help put faces with names and create a community here so that your students do feel comfortable coming to us in September. So our staff is not even, some of the staff's not even technically hired yet, but is really excited to have these Zoom calls and meet their residents in the next few days. So those email links have been sent out, and so every building has been sent out except for University Park. Those will be sent out tomorrow. So if your student lives in any of our buildings besides anything in UP, please get them to check their email and see if their invitation is there.
I have Adriana Graham. Oh, sorry. I thought you were unmuted. Well, okay, here we go.
Everybody, I just had a quick question about orientation for the parents. Is it for the full 3 days also, or is it just 1 day? I was a little confused about how that worked.
Yes, ma'am. It is for the parent orientation is for the 3 days, the same as the students. Sometimes you'll interact together and sometimes it'll be separate sessions, but it does last the same length as the student sessions or student orientation.
Okay, and have those, the agenda for those gone out yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know that there's just been changes when we shifted the dates that forced some changes, and then us rethinking what we have traditionally done, and then just making sure that with everything that we're dealing with, just making sure that we put things in place now where when you come, you feel comfortable. It's just changed things. So I know they're working on that. I would just kind of stay in touch with them if you have any questions. Elton is the one who's over orientation. So I think it's orientation at La Tech, or Elton. I'm about to call him.
It's orientation at latech.edu. And Mr. Elton Taylor is the director of that orientation program.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cheryl Thies.
Yes. Y'all probably answered my question already, but I'm going to ask it anyway, I guess. Where can my son go to find a place to at least meet his roommate? Because he's gone cold turkey, potluck, whatever you want to call it. I'm nervous, but he's not. So, but I want him to do it. I want him to go try to communicate with him.
Miss Cheryl, I would recommend the Zoom calls Miss Lindsay talked about. And again, those are voluntary, so the roommate may not jump on those. We do have those questions from time to time. I've tried to email the roommate or message them through the portal, and they're not answering. And y'all, that's not unusual. Like I said, we have trouble with students, paying attention to their emails here or
Yeah,
getting.
my son's the same way.
Yeah. So I would say try to jump on those Zoom calls and see if maybe they get it today. Like I said, I sat in Graham earlier today, and there were 2 roommates in there that were able to see each other.
He doesn't even know his roommates' names.
Oh, okay. Well, you should be able to log on to your housing portal, and then you'll pull up your confirmation, your room confirmation, and down at the bottom it should, if there's another student assigned with him at this point, it'll have his name on there where he could click on that name and be able to message him in the housing portal.
Oh, he can message him to the housing portal?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have to sign into Star Res?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if you have questions or problems doing that, just email me and I can try to look it up and
Yeah, well, I'm gonna tell him to do it, but.
Yes, ma'am, I would definitely recommend that.
And thank you, Mr. Speed, for all the communication on the parent page. Appreciate it.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
It's a Facebook group to you all you parents, and it's very informative. And
I said I was going to change my title to Dean of Facebook Engagement.
Well,
he told me you had a title change, and I truly believed that.
Well, you have been wonderful getting that letter across from Dr. Geis, and he's answered a lot of questions.
Sure.
Anyway, and I know you're working hard, and I know this virus is kind of scary and making things change, but
yeah,
we'll just deal with it.
Yeah, we will. We'll overcome it. And I don't know if you saw the messages in the beginning, and I had to kind of back off because I think I'm known for always trying to solve every little problem. But one of the primary reasons I did that is because my daughter, my middle child, she does not, I tried to recruit her to tech, but she didn't come. And she actually is at Xavier, New Orleans. So it was a little bit easier for me to just kind of lean in. And sometimes I go to bed at night and wake up in the morning answering messages, and I don't mind. It's not a problem. And when I was asked quite some time to get on there, it was so that I could serve the students. And sometimes parents are just the easiest way to do that. And so, we'll continue to do that. I think Dr. Geis has done a fabulous job of communicating.
I agree. He has, and you have to.
It's made a big difference. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And we're going to be here.
I have a son 2 years at Tech right now.
Okay.
But he's off campus now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just gonna I'll tell my other son to look online on his portal and see if he can find his roommates. That's all. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Ms. Katie has a question. I'll unmute you.
I have a question. There was another mom a while ago who had asked about parent orientation and a schedule and stuff. I had asked Mr. Elton about that last week, and he told me they wanted to make sure they got since everything had to be pushed back, they wanted to make sure they got all the kids scheduled for orientation first. Then the letters or the emails would go out to set up for parent orientation. And once they do that, they'll start emailing out a schedule. So I don't know if that helps answer that question for her.
Thank you, Ms. Katie. That was for Ms. Graham. Some of you guys that know more than we do. We should turn the reins over to you. Thank you.
Kathy Melancon? Melanson.
There you go. I have a quick question. So the parent orientation, will it follow the student orientation? They've changed the students' orientation date. Does it follow, or do we have to do something else?
I think as she just stated that there will be some information coming later, but I do know for a fact it is going to follow it.
Okay.
We're going to have to wait just a little while, and let everything catch up. I know that one of my staff members who is not with orientation, but with admissions, I oversee all of the recruiters. So the recruiters that you have, whether you're in Texas, or South Louisiana, wherever you are, part of the admission staff. Also here, which if you come on a visit, you probably met the specialist. The specialist will begin to reach out because there have been a lot of people who have received some of these messages or just haven't paid attention. So we sent a message out today that basically said, are you still planning on coming back? And so you'll probably start hearing from the admission staff again just to get people re-signed up. So I think once that happens, dominoes will begin to fall and you'll see some things happening with the parent orientation as well.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Michelle has a question.
Hey, yeah, sorry, I have another question. Do the parents have to go to orientation? Because she's feeling a little independent, which is great. And I asked her if she wanted me to go, and she said, I asked her if her roommates, my parents were going, and she said, no, not right now. And I said, well, do you want me to go? And she's like, I think I'm good. We did go to another little, like, I don't even know what it was, but it was something up there, like a scholarship drawing. And they said that they, you know, completely separate the parents from the students. So we're not going to be with them. And they, you know, just talk about a lot of the stuff that y'all have talked about independence and, you know, letting them get involved on campus. Is not just about academics, which is awesome. But I just didn't know if, you know, it's recommended that parents have to go, so to speak.
You use two tough words. You use recommended, or I guess 3 or 4. And you said have to go. It's highly recommended.
That the parents go?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. But you don't have to go. So it's tough to marry those two up just because you will get information. I mean, I hope that we have helped, especially if you have any concerns or any, you know, fears or anything like that. And then I hope you're convinced that if some things don't work out or we need to help or lean in any way, that we'll be here to do that. But there are other people in other departments that are just as willing to do the same thing. So you'll meet some of them. It's just, you know, I've been here for 28 years for a reason. This is a great place. I've worked with other universities in different capacities. My wife worked right down the street at Grambling State University. I've done training sessions. I've met people from all over the country. And it probably comes more from my director of admissions, who used to work at a university down south and was from Baton Rouge, lived in Baton Rouge, graduated from there, then worked there. But he reminds us often how special this place is. And he says we're fish in water. We don't realize what we have. So over the last few years working with him, he's enlightened me on how special this place is. We're not perfect. But education and learning and developing, it's not a perfect process. It's a process that demands that we go a little bit further. Sometimes it's a little bit painful. Sometimes it requires more energy. We just feel like we can put students in a really good position to be successful, even through those bumps and bruises. So that's the reason I would say, so you could meet some of these other people. You know, my wife is the director of the counseling center. I mean, just meeting the counseling center staff here, I can tell you, you're going to be impressed. You're going to know that there are people that if your son or daughter, especially if they're more than an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I know some of you are from 4.5, 5 hours away, and then a parent earlier from much further than that. The further a student gets away from home, the more my antennas go up, and the more I will assure that we're going to be there to help and assist. So it may just be coming in my office or one of the housing members' office just to talk, but it may actually mean going to see a licensed counselor on just this transition phase of their life. So that's why I would recommend it. I think that's the benefit of it.
I mean, I'm sold. I think y'all fabulous, and I think she's gonna have a great experience. And you know, I just didn't know if she's like, you don't need to come, but I need to say, okay, but they said I should.
Yeah, I think you can tell her that, and I think you can also let her know you're going to give her freedom. And I tell you, the first time you can prove that to her, it's gonna shock her, because they're more accustomed to you guys as parents doing things for them than they think, and those who want their food think they want it until you give it to them. And I can tell you that from experience with my two daughters. I'm lucky. My daughter has benefited from the individuals who are on this call who work directly for Residential Life. I really do believe, in a sense, they're more her parent than I am at this time, because she's been hearing this rhetoric from me for years, and she doesn't want to hear it from me anymore. But if Miss Lindsay, Miss Emily, Miss Casey, Mr. Barnell, if they say something, oh, it's gold.
Golden. It's golden.
Yeah, they roll with it. So there are going to be opportunities for you to let her go, and she'll figure that out. She'll pick it up quick. And so what I say is, you take care of it for you, or you take part in it for you, and let her take part of it. And then even when you're here, shucks, if she texts you and says, I'm at such and such place, tell her good. I'll see you on Friday. She'll get the message.
Okay, thank y'all so much.
Mm-hmm. We dropped quite a few participants, but we still have 71. If you guys have questions, shoot them. Oh, I see one.
So we got Ann.
Okay, yes, you're on.
My daughter is in Dudley Suites, and I guess this is just kind of a question for any of the housing accommodations, but what do you see parents and students bring that really is not necessary? I just feel like there's a lot of things that were mentioned on this call today, like a television that I wouldn't have even thought about, but is there a piece of furniture that's needed, or just, I mean, I guess my question really is, what are the limitations, or what do you say don't bring?
I do recommend that whatever you bring, that you're conscious that there's another person in the room, so you don't want to bring too much. We have seen some people bring U-Haul trailers and move their whole house into an apartment that we have. So, I mean, that's the one thing I recommend. We aren't seeing a lot of televisions. We are seeing more streaming devices. We also have our own streaming network, kind of like our own personalized Dogflix kind of Netflix thing. So we do see a lot more streaming than we do televisions. I haven't really seen anything that's just been like, that's kind of pointless. It's just,
And the other question really that I had was, y'all had mentioned earlier, much earlier in the call, that in Dudley Suites, the beds are lofted already. And I've looked on the Facebook site, and when you're saying lofted, are you saying that they're 4 feet off the ground, or are you saying they're, 7 inches off of the ground?
Usually about the 4 feet option. They're at the top.
Okay.
But they can be lowered if your student doesn't want to be up that high.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Well, okay. Well, I guess I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed getting to see some of you.
Yeah, we may have one more. I see a Sierra Earhart, unless you're waving goodbye. You're waving goodbye?
No.
See you later. No. Was she waving, really?
No. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question for the Dudley Suite. Can you hear me?
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay. Is there a height requirement for shelving? I saw some people had got some kind of a metal shelving that could basically, you have your refrigerator, then a little rack, and then a microwave, and then it would go up. where they could put little cubbies or TVs and that kind of stuff. And some of them from Dormco come pretty tall. Is there a certain height that we can go?
No, ma'am. I would say, I mean, they could go, you know, as tall as the room is, and the Dudley Suites is pretty tall as far as you know, to the ceiling. Like some of our buildings are a little different in the height of the room. Like Cottingham has tall ceilings. I'm not sure exactly how tall it is, you know, to the Dudley Suites to answer that question effectively. It might be something that you would need to email us and let us have a student maybe provide their experience having lived there as to what would work. Where is she? I lost her. Did we lose her?
Jeff Phillips. Jeff Phillips, if you'll tell that young man that in a few years I'll be coming after him to recruit him to Louisiana Tech. Tell him I see him. Tell him I said do well in school. Tell him master standardized tests, and I've got some scholarship money for him. And we will be ready to accept him into the Tech family.
Oh, he's a cutie. Okay. I hope we answered Miss Katie's question. She disappeared. Anybody else have any last minute questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace. No, I'm just kidding. You could certainly email us at any time and ask any questions. And this went so well. Hopefully you guys liked it. Maybe we do another one in a couple of weeks and provide some updates. And maybe once we have plans for move-in that are a little more concrete, can kind of review that with you guys and answer questions that you might have then as we get closer to time. Will that work? Sound good? Okay. Mr. Speed, you have anything else to add?
I do not. Thank you for your time, and let us know if we can help. If you need anything, just reach out to us, please.
Absolutely. And if you emailed me, I promise I'll get back to you tomorrow.
And I updated mine and Miss Emily's names to have our email addresses. So if you have questions for our specific areas, just a reminder, I'm over the female residence halls and 2 apartment complexes. So if you have questions regarding those, and then Miss Emily's over room assignment. So shoot us an email. We'll be glad to chat.
Bye, guys. Thank you for sending your students to live with us in the fall. We look forward to it. Look forward to meeting them.
We look forward to it. Thanks.
Thank y'all.